Today on the Sartorial Chef, we're bringing the cantina to the kitchen once again, starting off with my Mexican lasagna with ground beef and queso sauce. Next, I'm doing a fun take on a macaroni salad with salsa and sour cream. And lastly, for dessert, it's cinnamon bread pudding with a caramel apple topping. Yum, yum. So why don't you pull up a chair and dine with me? We are in the cantina once more. Today it is Mexican lasagna with a Southwest take on a macaroni salad. So to begin on the Mexican lasagna, I'm going to start with some ground beef here. This is about 80-20 lean, and it's about 5 pounds, 5.5 pounds. Now you're probably asking yourself, what is Mexican lasagna? Well, it's a casserole of sorts. And it's just like regular lasagna, as in there's different layers and you stack them. But instead of marinara sauce, we're doing a taco meat, which is what I'm working on right now. And I've just got my skillet going, and you can hear this ground beef is sizzling nicely. And I'm just going to take my spoon here and break it up a little bit. Got some seasonings here I'm just going to add to this to really jazz it up. Of course, salt and pepper always. A nice generous helping of salt. Nice generous helping of pepper. To this I am also adding some onion powder. About a couple teaspoons of onion powder. A couple teaspoons of garlic powder. And a couple teaspoons of taco seasoning. And the taco seasoning is what's really going to give our meat some heat and really give it that authentic flavor. Now you can use like fresh garlic, fresh onion if you want, but there's already going to be some onion and things in the salsa I'm using to make my queso spread. So I didn't want too many textures, but you can always kind of go how you want. Okay guys, you can see that the meat is really rendering down nicely and we're getting some nice fat off of that. Now I'm going to go ahead and season the meat some more here. A little more salt, a little more pepper, a little more garlic, a little more onion, and a little more of our taco seasoning. I like to season both sides of my meat, so once it's broken up some, I'll go back and throw some more seasonings in. So we really want this to have a lot of flavor. And this is just a really fun dish. You know, we do Mexican here all the time, but we're usually pretty straightforward. And then, you know, there's always leftovers, you know, leftover taco meat, leftover chicken, you know, whatever it is. And I thought, what can I do with this that's different? Instead of eating the same thing out of it over and over again. And I thought, why not Mexican lasagna? Why not throw some things together? You know, and I've played around with it before. I've tried different things in it. I've done beans, I've done rice, but this is kind of my favorite way of having it. And it's really simple. You cook your meat up, you just assemble it, it goes in the oven, and you're done. I love simple dishes. Okay, now to stretch this meat out just a little bit, I'm going to throw in some water, about a couple tablespoons. And then I'm going to finish it off with just a little more of the taco seasoning. What's going to happen is that water and that taco seasoning is going to kind of give this a nice little saucy note. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. My meat is done. Now before we move on, I've got my water going for the macaroni, and it is to a boil. So I am just going to throw some salt in to season our pasta. You really want to season your water good because this is what's going to give your noodles some real flavor. And then I'm also going to throw in a little oil here to help keep our macaroni from sticking together. And I've just got some regular elbow macaroni here. I'm just going to go ahead and dump this in. There's about a half a box left. I'm just going to go ahead and fix the whole box. going to give our macaroni a little stir here just to help get it started. And then I will just let that go. The macaroni is going to take about 10 to 12 minutes for dry pasta. And we can move on to assembling our... I've got the ground beef here. It is done. It looks great, you guys. And I've just got a little foil pan here. No fuss, no mess. Okay, so here's a really simple, easy queso dip. I love to do for parties and different things. I think I showed it for you before in a previous episode, but it's works really well for this lasagna here. So I've just got in this bowl here, I've got a block of cream cheese, which I have pre-softened in the microwave. You can also let it come to room temperature, and that's going to work as well. But I just do it for about a minute, minute and a half in the microwave, and it's good to go. So to that, I've got some salsa here. I'm not going to use all of this. There's about half a container left. I'm going to save some for the macaroni salad. So I'm going to pour in about half of this jar, and then the other half I'm going to save here for the salad. Now, one thing I love to do, I love to take jarred ingredients and freshen them up. So this is store-bought salsa. What I'm going to do, I'm going to throw in a few splashes of lemon juice here, and that's just going to brighten up the veggies here in this salsa, give it a fresh note. And to this, I'm also going to add a little sweet to the heat. I've got some mango chutney here. Now chutney, it's just like a jelly, but it actually has like whole pieces of fruit in it. So you'll notice there's little bits of mango in here. And I'm just going to do a couple tablespoons of that. And that's going to give it a nice sour note. It's going to add a little sweetness. And it's going to continue to add some freshness. And then I'm just going to come in here with my whisk. Give this a nice whisk. We want to incorporate all of our ingredients. And if your cream cheese is not softened all the way, you'll notice there's little bits of cream cheese in here. That's fine, because this is going in the oven, so that's going to continue to melt, and you're really not going to notice it all that much. Okay, so that is our queso spread. Now it's time to layer up. So I'm going to start with the meat here. And I've got my ladle here, and I'm just going to take this and do a nice even layer of meat here on our bottom layer. And we're going to just plop some of this in there, right on top of the meat. Not quite all of this. And then just spread that out. A nice even layer of the queso. And then we will move on to the tortillas. Now I've just got some whole grain tortillas here. I think they're a little healthier than the white flour tortillas. And then we'll just take some and layer them right around. We can probably get about 4 here. That'll cover it nicely. And then we will do our cheese. Now this is a Mexican blend. It has different blends of Monterey Jack, queso, pepper jack, things like that. So it's just going to give us a nice variety here of Mexican cheeses. And it's also going to work like a glue when it melts, and it's going to help hold this together, which is what we want. So let's do a small layer of that. And then we will return back to the beef. So we're going to add the rest of our ground beef here. And just kind of spread that out. Now I'm doing a smaller casserole here since it's just me, but if I'm doing like a potluck, or I'm having a lot of people over, or I'm doing this for like a game day or something, I'll make a bigger one, and then I'll just kind of double up on the portions. But since it's just me, I'm going to make a smaller one here. And then we're going to finish the rest of our queso here. And then just spread that out. And you can stack this as high as you want. I'm just doing 2 layers here, because again, it's just me and I will really only eat so much of this. But you can go 3, 4 high, even 5 high, depending on how big your dish is. I could probably fit another layer in here if I wanted to, but again, it's just me. So I'm going to do 4 more tortillas. And then I'm going to throw some more cheese on top. Alright, and this baby is ready to go. Okay, now we're going to pop this in the oven. This is already pretty much cooked. You could eat it as it is, but I want this cheese to get nice and ooey gooey and bubbly and nice and brown on top. So I'm going to stick it in the oven. I have preheated the oven to 450 degrees. And that's just going to go in for about 15 to 20 minutes just to really give that cheese time to melt and get nice and beautiful on top. So I'm just going to go ahead and set the timer here to about 15 minutes and we'll check it out. Okay, while that is going away in the oven nicely, we're going to move on to our Southwest macaroni salad. So I've already got the macaroni. It is cooked and it is perfectly done. I like it with a little bit of bite to it, not too much. So I'm going to strain that up. I'm going to grab my bowl here. I like to work while the pasta is still hot because that's really going to help our ingredients here stick to it. You wait too long, you lose those starches. So I'm going to throw in the rest of this salsa. And this is a really simple macaroni salad, guys. You guys are going to flip when you see how easy this is. So a jar of the rest of this salsa. And then I've got some sour cream here. And this is just like a small container, and I'm going to do about, not even half this, not the whole container, but a little more than half. And then I'm going to come in here with my spoodle, and then I'm just going to give this a nice stir. And what's great is the sour cream kind of tones down the salsa, but the salsa gives you like everything you need. It's got your tomatoes in it and different things like that, and then it gives it a lot of flavor. And the macaroni, we've seasoned the pasta water with a little salt, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this another little helping of salt and a little pepper. And just give this a nice stir. And this is just a really simple salad, y'all. You can serve it warm like this if you want. You can throw it in the fridge and let it chill. This is also great for like picnics, cookouts, things like that. Just to have something different. Everybody does macaroni salad, but this is just something a little different here. Alright. This baby is ready to come out. Oh, nice. And you can see this has got a lovely golden brown on top. So I'm just going to set this here, and we've got our salad ready to go. All we need now is a plate and a fork. Alright, I'm just going to come in here with my spatula, and I'm going to slice me off a little piece of this casserole. Now this one I've made here, the smaller version, it'll cut into about 9 pieces. And what you can do is you can portion this out, you can store it in the fridge, you can even bag it up and freeze it. It will keep. And then again, if you want to make like a larger portion for like party or something, you just double the recipe. You can get 18 servings out of this. So I'm just going to do one nice little slice of this for now. And then I'm going to get a little bit of my Southwest macaroni salad here. And we are ready to dig in. I think I'll start with the salad first. Mmm. Mmm. Oh, it's really good. You get heat from the salsa. You get the crunch of some of them vegetables. I like a nice chunky salsa. But then the sour cream comes in. Gives it a nice sour note. Kind of mellows everything out. Very nice. Very nice. Now for the Mexican lasagna. And you can kind of see like those layers here stacked up. I love that. It's even better if you stack it higher, but again, you know, it's just me. So I'm just going to cut into this. It looks amazing. So good. You get the meat first, that taco seasoning, it's very assertive, it's very in your face. Then the queso spread kind of gels everything together. It's really nice. You get the cream cheese, you get some of the tang from the mango, some heat, you get the brightness from the lemon juice, and then you've got that tortilla, and the cheese on top just gives it a nice into the bite. I'm gonna go back in. So that is it for our main course, guys. Next we're going to move on to my cinnamon apple bread pudding. Alright, it's dessert time. I thought I'd do a fun take on a bread pudding with some fresh apples, and I'm going to make some individual bread puddings in my little muffin tins. I've pre-greased the muffin tins. Now when I normally make a bread pudding, I do a big bowl of it, and I usually just mix the bread right in and everything. But I thought this time, I'm just going to cut my bread up and plop it in the muffin tins, and then we'll pour my custard over top. And this is just a fun little variation on bread pudding. It's one of my favorite go-to desserts. It's really easy. You just throw everything together, stick it in the oven. You know, for those who like aren't big on baking and things like that, this one doesn't have too many measurements in it, so it's a really fun, easy. And I've got the bread here. I just picked up a loaf of cinnamon bread from the grocer. It was on sale, and it's just another kind of layer of flavor. The bread already having the cinnamon in it, I thought would be nice. And I'm just doing some little medium-sized chunks here. Take this bread, a nice generous handful. We're just going to plop it right in here to our little muffin tin. You don't want to fill it too high because you want to leave room for the custard to kind of seep in. And I should have enough here. Perfect. Alright, next onto the custard. We're going to start with 4 eggs. And I've just had these eggs sitting out for a couple hours to let them come to room temperature. That's going to help them cook more evenly in the oven. And I like saving the carton because then I can just plop my shells back into this carton and throw them out. Okay, that is 4 eggs. Next is some sugar. I need half a cup of white sugar. The bread's already kind of sweet, so we don't need as much sugar as I would normally use. And what's also great about bread pudding, it's all wet ingredients. Your only dry ingredients are the bread, so it's very little measuring. And then we're just going to do a half cup of the brown sugar here. Make sure you pack that tight because the brown sugar that's good. Lastly, I need 2 cups of milk. One. And that is 2. Nice. Now there's cinnamon in the bread, but I do have some nutmeg here, and I'm going to put in about a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. You don't need too much. And I've also got some vanilla extract, and I'm going to do about a teaspoon of the vanilla extract. And I want to throw just a little heat in here, so I've got some cayenne. I'm going to do about an 1/8 teaspoon of the cayenne, just to give it a little punch. Since this is kind of a Mexican dessert after all, I want to play with the sweet and the heat. And then we're just going to break these egg yolks up first, and then give it a nice whisk. Make sure we get all of these ingredients well incorporated. Alright, that is good. Okay, now I've got my ladle here, and I'm just going to take my mixture, and we're just going to pour it right on top. You want to fill it about halfway up. The eggs are going to puff up in the oven, and then it's going to get real nice and fluffy. So you want to fill this too high because it's going to cook over. But about halfway up, maybe 3/4. Now this mixture I've got here is also great for like a French toast or something like that. It's basically the same kind of setup. That actually sounds good. I may have some of this custard left over. You just want to be careful with the ladle as well. Make sure you're not spilling any egg on the sides here. That's going to burn in the oven. Now I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to kind of press down on the bread a little bit. So I want all the bread to kind of get incorporated. What's fun though is you leave these little bits sticking out at the top, and they're going to get nice and crispy, and in the oven it's going to give you a nice texture here. And then I've just got one more thing here, some butter. I'm only going to use about half of this. And this is just some cold butter from out of the fridge. I like to use the cold butter because it has a different melting temperature than like butter that's been sitting out. And I'm just going to do half of this stick, I think. I'm just going to dice it into little cubes. And then I'm going to plop a cube on each one of these. And what's going to happen, this butter is going to slowly melt in the oven, and it's going to get on top of this bread, and it's just going to give us a really unctuous, delicious top here to our little mini bread pudding. Alright everybody, these babies are ready to go in the oven. I've just preheated it to 325 degrees. And they're smaller, so they're only going to cook for about 25 to 30 minutes, but we'll check them with the thermometer when they come out. And we'll move on to my apple topping. Welcome back. We are working on my caramel apple topping for the bread pudding. I've just got about 4 organic apples here that I'm slicing up. And then I've got my skillet here. I've got the rest of that butter from earlier. And we're just going to brown these apples in some butter and sugar, and it's going to be delicious. And what's great about this topping, it's also good for like an ice cream topping, or if you're making like a spice cake, it's good in that as well. But I thought it would be fun to try with this bread pudding. Now when I'm slicing apples, we're just doing little strips here. And slicing the apple, I'm leaving the peel on because I'm slicing them pretty thin. And it's going to cook down in the sauce anyway, so it's not going to be a big deal if we leave it on. And I'm just coming around the core here to avoid the seeds and everything. And then I'm coming back with my knife and cutting nice little strips. I want them kind of thin, so they're all about the same size. They're all going to cook about the same, because if they're too big, they're not going to get done before the caramel burns. So we want to kind of have nice little smaller pieces. Okay, that is my apples. Alright, we've just got one more bad guy here. Okay, that is it for my apples. Now I have got a little lemon juice here. This is going to keep my apples from turning brown. And I'm just going to do about a teaspoon of lemon juice, pretty much the rest of this bottle. And now I'm going to season these apples a little bit before they go into the caramel. I've got some cinnamon here. We're going to do about a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then I've got a little nutmeg here. About a half teaspoon of nutmeg. Nutmeg's a little stronger, so you don't need as much of that. And then I'm just going to kind of toss these apples around. Just let that seasoning get all over. And they are smelling delicious, guys. Okay, and our pan's looking good. So I'm going to go ahead and plop my apples in. I'm going to turn that up to medium here. And then I've got my spoon. I'm just going to break these apples up a little bit. As they cook down, they're going to release their own natural juices. And they're just going to get real nice and tender and sweet and golden. Okay. These apples are bubbling away nicely. Now to turn this into a caramel, I've got a few things here. I've got some brown sugar. I'm going to do about a half cup of the brown sugar. I'm just going to plop that in the middle. I've also got some vanilla extract here, and I'm just going to do about a teaspoon of the vanilla extract. And then we're just going to break this brown sugar up and stir it in. You can see this is coming together real nicely. That sugar is going to cook down and it's going to crystallize our apples. It's just going to come together with the butter, and it's just going to be absolutely delicious. And I just want to stir my apples over. I want every apple here to get a nice bit of the caramel on it. Guys, this is smelling so good. Once it starts bubbling real good, you're going to turn it down to a lower heat and just kind of let it simmer. And that sugar is going to continue to cook down, and it's going to become kind of syrupy-like, which is exactly what we want. We don't want it too thick, but we do want it to kind of reduce a little. Our caramel is good. I have turned it off and I'm just going to let it sit aside here. Those apples are nice and tender now. And it's time to check our bread puddings. Okay. Pull these babies out and you can see they've really puffed up nicely. The egg kind of, the whites of the egg, they rise in the oven. Okay, I've got my toothpick here. We're just going to check these babies and see if they're ready to go. I'll check this one here. And then I always like to check another one for good measure. One out of each pan. Toothpick is clean, so we are good to go. This is just a great little dessert. I think they're fun. Everybody gets their own little one when you do it individual like this. And I'm going to get me a plate. Alright, I've got my plate and my fork and I am ready to go in. Now I greased this pan so the custards should come right out. And I'm just going to grab this guy here. Plop that right onto the plate. Oh, that looks so good. And then I'm just going to take some of my apples here and I'm going to spoon them over the top. Try and get some of this delicious caramel too. Tell me this doesn't look delicious. Mmm. Mmm. You can hear the crunch of that bread on top. I love textures in desserts. So you've got the nice crunch top. The inside is nice and soft and succulent. Mmm. Mmm. Then you've got that bright acidity from the apples that cuts through the sweetness. Absolutely amazing, you guys. So once again, we have been dining with the Santosh. Until next time.